Congressman Mike Johnson is joining us for a little bit. Hey, Mr. Mike, how are you today?
Hey, my friends. Good to hear your voices.
I'm looking 15 minutes. 15 hours, 29 minutes, 40 seconds till the government shutdown. What's going to happen? You tell me, is the panic worth all is this worth all the worry?
I was just sitting here talking this with my staff this morning. None of us know exactly what's going to happen here in the next hours, but it does not appear that they had the votes in the Senate to avoid the shutdown. And it's really very unfortunate. I mean, we did our job in the House yesterday. We passed it. I don't like continuing resolutions at all. I mean, I can't stand it. I don't think this is the way to run the country. But when it comes to a moment like this, we can't allow the Children's Health Insurance Program to go unfunded. We can't do this to our military. We got to keep the government in operation. It's probably the most basic responsibility of the Congress. So this is not a game. We ought to put partisan politics aside. I hope the Senate will do the right thing, but we're about to find out.
It seems to me, well, let me ask you the same question that last week regarding this topic and DACA amnesty et al. That I asked Mr. John Kennedy. I said, how do you deal with people? How do you negotiate with people who are for total amnesty, who are for open borders, and the only walls they want to build are around their own homes? How do you negotiate? How do you cut a deal with folks like that? And I'm talking about Democrats and, bluntly put, some Republicans.
Well, you're right. It's a real problem. They don't apply a lot of rational thought. I mean, it's the same concept we've had with the debate over sanctuary cities. I mean, it just defies all logic and reason. I don't understand it at all. How could a top official in the city just decide they want to avoid our federal immigration laws? It's a matter of public safety. And, the DACA debate is a very emotional one for a lot of people. But we've got proposals on the table that can solve the problem. I mean, compromises that would work. We have the Securing American Safety Act, which is pending right now in the House. I mean, it has a legislative fix to the problem. It gives the individuals who receive the deferred action on the basis of being brought here as minors, they get a 3-year legal status. It allows them to work and travel overseas, and there's no special path or green card. It's not amnesty at all. They have existing use of the green card programs, but it prevents criminals from being part of that. It combats fraud. So there are some good suggestions on the table, but it's an all-or-nothing prospect for Chuck Schumer and his cohorts over there in the Senate and many in the House as well. And it really is very, very frustrating.
Would I be, and I don't think so, would I be silly to think that the Democrats, and as mentioned, a whole bunch of Republicans don't want a deal at all, that they really, really want a shutdown to try to force mass amnesty on a whole bunch of people who don't want it?
I think that's exactly right. I don't think any rational person can draw any other conclusion if you hear the remarks and you see the games that are being played. And look, this is real people's lives, and it truly is, as I said a moment ago, a matter of national security. We have got to enforce our federal immigration law. We know there are dangerous regimes and terrorists and tyrants all around the world. We have people coming over the porous borders who are seeking to do us harm. This is more than policy preferences. It's about the most basic responsibility of the federal government, and that is protecting the people. So it's really something we got to get beyond the partisan bickering and politics. This is why we call it the swamp here. It's a serious problem, and we need to do the country's business.
Federal funding runs out at midnight. Mike, what happens? Tell us the folks at the VA, at Barksdale, at Kisatchie National Forest, all the others. What happens after midnight tonight?
Well, look, a lot of the alarm about a government shutdown it does become hyperbolic. I mean, we know that essential federal employees will continue to be paid. And in every case in the past where there's been shutdown, even those who are classified, quote unquote, non-essential federal employees, they always get paid. They just get paid on a delay. So there's back pay that is involved. It is not the end of the world, but it is also not the way that we should conduct the country's business. And that's why this is important. I mean, we included in our vote last night on the House side a 6-year reauthorization of the CHIP program, the Children's Health Insurance Program. Now, I thought I've been listening all year to the Democrats say how critical that funding is, and it is. It's certainly in a state like Louisiana. But now they're playing games with that. And there were Democrats last night that voted against funding because they want to play games on this DACA issue. They're going to have to answer for that in the next election cycle, and it's an unfortunate thing to see us come to this point.
Seeing a piece today says the deal came together after the Freedom Caucus members circumvented leadership and took their demands directly to President Trump. You're a member of the Freedom Caucus. Is that accurate?
I was in the room last night with the president on the other end of the phone, and there were lots of discussions. But it's not the coup that the media is describing. I mean, there was a lot of cooperation. Leadership made some I think good concessions to other factions within the party, and we got the job done. For example, one of the deals that was made is that they agreed to give us a vote on the date of the State of the Union, which is January 30th, coming up, on the real stable military funding. 2-year full funding for the military at the level is required. That's a necessary thing. We have got to give stability to the armed forces, and that's one of the concessions that was made. I'm delighted by that, and I think we're going to get a lot of things done here in the next few weeks.
It just seems to me in this case that every Democrat and a whole bunch of Republicans see this as the government shutdown, over the amnesty. They see that as a hill to die on, and I think they are grossly misreading the wishes of the American people. How can they be so wrong? I think this was the main reason that Trump was elected. I see this as a gross misread on their part. How's about you?
Robert, I do too. I know that in our district, in the 4th Congressional, people are very concerned about this issue. They're very concerned about anything that would look anything like amnesty, because it's not only danger that we've discussed, but it sends the wrong message around the world. If we allow amnesty, it sends a message to everybody everywhere, all over the planet. Come on into America. You don't have to follow the rules as long as you can get here. At some point in the next 3 or 5 or the next 10 years, we're gonna give you citizenship. Don't worry about it. We can't afford to do that anymore. It's what's gotten us into this problem, this situation. We have to enforce the laws. At the end of the day, this is about the rule of law. That is essential to maintain in a constitutional republic, which we are trying to do.